Well, welcome to episode 13. This is another in-person episode with Ryan Wilson, my husband.
Hello.
Cheers. We're having a little brewski. Sunday fun day. The kids are safe. Okay. So the title of this episode is, I actually don't know the title, but I know the topic. And then when I post it, I'll come up with a crafty title to get people to want to listen. Mm-hmm. But the topic is an adventure and adversity in the form of getting laid off from your job. And why would we be talking about this? Because Ryan just got laid off on Thursday.
Yep. It's been 3 whole days.
So he has been gracious enough to come be on the podcast because he's got more time now. No, I'm just kidding.
This is a paid thing, right?
No, kidding. No, it's fine. We'll be fine. It's fine. Fine. No. What does Charlie, what does Willy Wonka say? It's like, how does it taste? And he's like, it's good, right? Something like that. That's anyway, we can edit that out. So I think we're going to make this the first episode of what we're going to call Couples Corner and things you go through as a couple.
With a K.
Couples Corner with 2 Ks because we have Kids Corner. We know that that's not the correct spelling, but that's what we're going to do. It's called marketing. No. Okay. So for reals though, how are you feeling? For real?
Well, I mean, this isn't my first time getting laid off. This is now my 3rd time getting laid off. The first time was the most jarring because you were 6 months pregnant at the time. So that one was a little bit more, holy crap, this is happening now. Of course, and I had no experience being laid off, so I didn't know, and I'd never been laid off. I'd never been unemployed. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? And so the tidal
What year
wave,
was this?
2015.
So 2015, was that your first layoff?
Yeah.
My first time
being unemployed in my adult life. And of course, I'm also from Tennessee and I'm living in California and I don't know as many people. And so I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? And so that's the kind of the tidal wave thought that I had is, what do I do now? I have a baby on the way.
Luckily, we had savings.
We did.
We had a lot of savings. We were renting in Oakland, Jack London Square. So that's why you save for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Because when you get laid off, I've been laid off too, you have money in the bank. If you don't, it's a bit more panic.
Sure.
Obviously. Okay. So 2015, you got laid off.
And now I've had 2 layoffs in less than 2 years. So I worked at Cisco for 6 years and I left voluntarily to take a job at a startup and got laid off in 4 months. So that was a bit jarring. Now,
what was that?
That was NextNav.
And what did they do?
So they are in the 3D GPS space. So they had a lot of government applications, gaming applications, those types of things. So I got to be a director over there for 4 months before it became nothing. So that one was a bit jarring, but this time, A, I was more prepared for it, and B, I saw it coming. So having been through this before and thought, no, they're going to keep me. I'm providing too much value. This time, I even warned Bree. I said, hey, look, they just put an all hands on the calendar, and now I have a one-on-one with my boss right before it. So I feel something's happening. That one only gave me a day notice, but I told Bree, I was like, I think something's happening.
I remember.
And sure enough, I got laid off.
But what happened the same day?
The same day on LinkedIn.
2 years ago, right?
It would have been September-ish.
September
22.
Yeah. Okay.
September 22. So I get laid off, and when that same day, she connected me with someone on LinkedIn that she'd worked with at Oracle, and about a role. And when I first looked at it, I'm like, honey, this is a junior role. Have you met me? I mean, this is not something that I would entertain. This is like 1-2 years experience.
But it had the words customer success.
It had the right title, but that's about it. And so he wanted to talk to me, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm not going to take this that seriously because there's no future in this. But had a great conversation with the guy, And he asked, like, hey, I'd like to have another conversation with you. I'm like, okay, sure. And so all I did was consult on this role. I thought, hey, look, I got nothing going on. I'll help you out. And
you got time.
I'll coach you on what I think the role could be, and give you the pros and cons of making it a junior role versus a senior role. Had a couple of conversations with him. They went really well. I ended up meeting the GM. Not really sure why I was meeting him, but I was like, okay, I'll talk to him too. And then the next day after that, the process maybe lasted about a week. We had like 3 conversations. None of them were an interview. They were all just me consulting on what I thought the role could be. And he calls me up and says, hey, we decided to make this a senior role based off your feedback, and I assume you're interested. I was like, sure. So that happened in the span of a couple of weeks. And so I never even started. I never even started looking for a job.
You were unemployed for 2 weeks.
Well, my start date makes it longer than that, but yeah. I was unemployed for a very small amount of time.
That was nice. Huh?
Yeah. So now I'm working for this guy, and he lays me off now 3 days ago.
And I worked with him for 8.5 years.
Yeah.
So I know that wasn't easy.
The genesis of this one is that they lost a customer that they knew they were going to lose at some point. They just didn't know when. Now, they knew that before I joined. This was their largest customer. They were paying most of the bills and keeping the lights on. So when they finally said, hey, we're finally leaving now, that sent shockwaves through the company. And I called Bree that day and I said, hey, look, something might happen here, and it might happen soon, because we thought we had another year or two with this customer, and now it's over. So
welcome to Silicon
I lasted
Valley.
about another 3 months before I got the phone call. And so now it's my 3rd time, but I saw it coming. I was prepared for it. So when it happened, I was like, okay, I get it. And of course, I think the best thing you can do as an employee getting laid off is just be as gracious as you can, because no matter how good of an employee you were during your stint, they're going to remember how you left. If I do a rage quit and I turn the desk over and I'm really angry and I'm not going to help you, move on, that's all they're going to remember, and nobody's going to want to be a reference. So I'm like, hey, look, I enjoyed my time here. I understand. Let me know what I can do to make sure you guys can continue on the best foot you can. I'll stay on as long as you need me to. I'll do as much knowledge transfer and that type of stuff that you want. And sure enough, that's actually what I'm doing. So my last day actually wasn't Thursday. My last day is going to be the end of next month, because they want me to do all the knowledge transfer, because I have some tribal knowledge that they don't want me walking out the door with. So I'm going to be training a few other folks that are staying on. So, and obviously my former boss, the VP of Ops, he's going to be a reference for me, and I need that. So.
We're all Facebook friends. And
yeah.
I could tell you that couldn't have been an easy call for him, because
no, and I made it. And the thing is, I made it easy for him to do that. I made it easy. I'm like, look, I'm going to make this hard for you. I know you don't want to do this.
He's a messenger.
Yeah.
We traveled to India together. I worked with him for 8.5 years. I probably had hundreds and 8.5 years daily calls, maybe thousands of calls with him. So he's probably like, this call sucks, but you're going to get a glowing reference. And that's why you save for a rainy day. At the same time, obviously you don't have a bajillion dollars.
No.
So there's a nice little fire under everybody's ass when you live in a nice place. Like Danville's a nice place to live. It's desirable for young families. But California has a shit ton of taxes. So if you have one income, you got to be balling, or both of you have to. And more often in this area, I feel like that it's dual income, because women want to work, and if you don't work, that's cool too. Like, it's
especially as your kids get older.
By the way,
and they become more self-sufficient.
Being like a mom, stay at home is a job as well, and a lot of moms I know are also at the school every day, volunteering, PTA, have a side unpaid job as volunteering, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for swim team, for PTA, for carnival. So it's whether you work or not, when you have kids and you manage a house, whoever's not working is managing the house, full-time job, and then volunteering and doing all that. And whoever's working, you have to find a balance of, well, we couldn't do it without Gigi. We would have an au pair or something. So if someone is listening to this, millions of listeners right now, I'm just kidding. So one day, 10 years down the road, maybe as I get more listeners, you're in day 3 of getting laid off. have you noticed, like, you seem fine on the surface to me. Do you feel like where have your emotions been?
Well, because I saw it coming, I wasn't surprised. And that takes a big edge off on the anxiety. You're like, I don't feel as, hey, I wasn't just blindsided by this. I saw it coming, and one thing that I think your dad helped me out a lot with when I got laid off the first time, when I had no experience doing this, is to make sure that you're prepared. You're not blindsided. You're starting to get things ready in case this happens. You make sure LinkedIn is up to date. You make sure your resume is up to date. That way, if they break the glass and pull the trigger, then you're just not left flat-footed. And so I especially after the first time, I never felt I was flat-footed. The second time or the third time, and even now I don't feel flat-footed. So I have a plan now that I will execute through LinkedIn using my connections at various companies, either through alumni or through people that I've worked with before, to help push my way, hopefully, into interviews and new companies. So one of the best pieces of advice I think your dad gave me when I got laid off the first time.
My dad never gives advice.
Just kidding. He said, when should you start looking for your next job? I was like, when? He goes, the day you start your current one. And to be honest, that made a lot of sense, because when I got laid off, I ended up having to take a job I really didn't want to take, but felt the need to work. And so I used that to fund my real job search. Now, granted, I might have worked that job and ultimately decided, hey, you know what? I love it here and I want to stay here, and I feel a career here. I knew pretty quick that this was going to be a temporary thing. And so I started taking interviews once I was in new hire training, because once I wasn't unemployed anymore, the floodgates opened on LinkedIn and people started prospecting me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so this is what I needed to do. I don't want to do that this time. So ideally, I'm going to find a job I want and pursue it and get it. But like Bree was saying, this is an expensive place to live. So at some point I might have to switch that mindset to, I need to start working again. So that's the kind of anxiety that I would say I have now, is dream job versus I need income. And at what point does one cross the other? Because right now I'm focusing all my effort on what I want to do.
You should.
The ideal situation,
you should.
The right pay, the right.
Otherwise, why not go for it?
Yeah. But 6 months pass and I got nothing in the hopper, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, forget that.
Then sell your soul. No, I'm kidding. Kidding.
Then OnlyFans.
Yes. Well, if our parents watch this, I am joking. Mm-hmm. Ryan is joking. He's not going to start an OnlyFans, but that was the joke he was making. Unless he needs to at some point. No, I'm kidding.
Depends on what that tax bill.
California's expensive. No judging. So one thing came to mind for me. We talk about adversity on the podcast, and I've talked about in episodes sort of how last summer I kind of had a little bit of a breakdown that actually led to a rebuilding and therapy and total, what I feel like is like hyper growth. I've read that after you have like a dark night of the soul where you're just like, I can't function anymore. You can have what's called hyper growth, where my therapist said you can just like grow really fast after. Mm-hmm. It's a thing. So I'll put a link to the show notes. There's our kids. I'll put a link in the show notes to articles about, like, clinical articles about hypergrowth after, like, trauma, whether it's self-induced, mental shit. Mm-hmm. After you have a breakdown, your growth can actually be, like, exponential after. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, where was I going with that? Don't know. Oh, the thought was, so you got it. I had a breakdown. This is why this is weird. 1 year ago today, June 2nd of last year. Oh. A really rough night. Mm-hmm. And you remember.
Mm-hmm. I didn't remember the exact day, but yeah.
Yeah. It's just what I call like the dark night of the soul. Worst day of my life, probably. Maybe, yeah. Anyway, a year later, I'm episode 13 of a podcast, love my job. Kids are healthy, family's healthy. We just redid this room. I love it. Like,
it's a good room.
It's weird how I was telling my therapist, it's weird how good things are. Mm-hmm. So she's like, you come every 2 weeks. I think we can go once a month now. So she's like, you're done. See ya. You know what to do. I'm like, what? No. So total 180. Not 360, 180. Total 360. Last summer, you had to kind of be strong for me because I was going through adversity. I don't think you're having a mental breakdown right now, but this summer, I kind of have to be stronger for you while you figure out the situation. Not like you have income coming. It's just, right? Would you say it's like that as a couple for Couples Corner?
Well,
sometimes it's not going to be 50-50 perfectly all the time, like financially.
Even before that dark night, I mean, you would, what, a year prior, you'd gotten laid off from Oracle. So, I mean.
Yep. And I got severance. And then I told myself 3 months, because I got laid off on January 30th.
That's right.
And then I said 3 months. I would like to have a job in 3 months. It ended up being 3.5 months. So I was like,
you had to get a start date.
But perfectionist, I was like, I missed it by 2 weeks.
Because you've gotten your verbal by then.
But I got severance and then unemployment. And then I started. So I
came out ahead,
I fell up. But I was so pissed because I got laid off because of some interpersonal office stuff.
I get it, but I was happy.
You didn't have any interpersonal stuff.
I was happy you got laid off.
Well, I thought how I was laid off by that person. I was like,
it'd have been nice if you could have quit on your own terms, but
I just didn't like.
But hey, they funded your job search, so good for you.
Hey, turns out the senior director who probably signed my layoff, who wasn't super nice, she just got me a much better salary. So thank you. Cheers. So we've both been laid off. Do you feel like, you said to me the other day, because I keep asking you how you're feeling, you feel like once in 2 or 3 weeks when you're actually done, when you come in on Monday to your desk or you go to Starbucks?
I think that first day, that first Monday that everybody's working except me, I think that's when it'll finally sit in. But, it's not like I'm going to be sitting on my thumbs between here and now. I mean, here and then, excuse me. I'm going to be looking. I'm not going to be just sitting here waiting for the time to run out. Well, outside of my parents visiting, but outside of that, yes.
You can talk with your dad and strategize. He's a good businessman. He's a smart, successful guy. I always say, when you are looking for a job, tell everybody. Talk about it all the time. Go out. Go. If you're sitting at a cafe, hey, how are you? Oh, what are you doing there? Oh, who do you work for? Look at people's laptop bags. You start, literally, I started my copywriting career at a concert in Golden Gate Park. And someone was there, like, passed me a beer and was like, I was unemployed. And I was like, oh, what do you do? We started talking. She's like, oh my God, I'll give you my email address. We're looking for copywriters. Whole life changed by going to a concert when I was unemployed.
I'm also mindful of the fact that most people get referral bonuses for getting someone hired. So it's in their best interest to do that.
I want you to work at ServiceNow.
Yes, and you would get,
and I would get,
I expect half.
I think I would get some money. Yeah. And then developers, you get like much more. They're like, I got the golden ticket. If you get a developer, if you're a developer and you're listening to this, email me. I'll refer you and get paid for it. Sorry, I got to help the developers before I help you. Although with AI, there's going to be a lot more text to code and you won't need as many developers. So. But you need, just like writers, I need to adjust my job for AI. I'm going to do a whole another episode on that. Adventures in AI. Anyway, all right, so we're at 20 minutes almost. They say the ideal length is 20 to 40 minutes to engage your audience and provide value.
It's not long, but it's 10.
Well, if any parents listen to this, your mom, my mom, I'm going to say that. Okay, so.
You said you could edit things.
I know. I'm not going to. If I had lost my job or got laid off 3 days ago and you were interviewing me on your podcast, what would you say to me if I started to feel down?
I would say to keep busy. The last thing you want to do is be sitting there doing nothing and swimming in your thoughts. Be active. Even if, yes, look for a job, network and do that. Yes, do that. But even taking a walk, taking the dog for a walk, going to the gym, things to keep your mind occupied, because the negative thoughts come when you're doing nothing and you're alone. So keep busy, hang out with friends,
go to barbecues. That's where you get the freaking job.
If you start to become a recluse, if you start to hang out by yourself and not go out and feel down, then the snowball of your negative thoughts will consume you.
The walls will cave in and you'll feel like a loser.
So you keep busy.
Because I've been there.
And keeping busy can be, like I said, anything. It doesn't have to be just job search 12 hours a day. I mean, yeah, you can do that, but I mean, make sure it's productive hours. You can waste a lot of hours by what we would call the shotgun approach of like apply, just to see if something happens. But it doesn't really work.
If I see you doing that, I'm gonna unplug your computer.
Well, I mean, unless you have a connection at that company, odds are it's not going to do much.
You'll sit in a resume bank. The market right now is saturated. That does not mean you should be negative. It means that you need to have a warm handoff because people want to hire people they know. Would I want to hire a project manager that someone knows or someone I have no idea? Hello.
I mean, but you pay the I forgot what they call it on LinkedIn, the up level of
premium.
The premium, yeah. You pay for that because that way, if there is a job at a company you like, and let's say you don't have a connection there, you can at least ping the recruiter
worth the $50.
It's like, hey, I'm very interested in this job. This is why it's like I'm good. What? Sorry
to interrupt. Understanding, leveraging, maximizing LinkedIn.
Does that show up backwards when you show up?
I don't know. Neil Schaefer. Let's see who the editor is. Hold on.
No consequence.
Who's that editor? That's me. All right. Sorry. This is very like interviewing him, and then I'm like, ooh, look. Very rude. But you know,
I hope you don't.
I gotta bring home the bacon now, so I gotta. But that was kind of rude. But anyway, I'll put the link to the book that I was an editor for in 2009 on LinkedIn. Mama needs some more money now. Times are tough. No, it's fine. We're fine. It's going to be fine. No, we are.
Really?
I'm kidding. 22 minutes. All right. So we've talked about the emotions of a job search. We've talked about you're going to warm network, like basically, I want to give a shout out. One of my old friends, Boreana. Remember Boreana? Mm-hmm. She's following Adventures in Adversity. Love you, Boreana. I met her in 2009. We were at a party in the marina. And I remember I had this like big pink bottle of vodka that I thought was super cute. And she came up and she was like, hi. We were chatting and she had just graduated college and I was at Quinn Street. Mm-hmm. And then we just started talking. And then she was like, I'm looking for a job. And I'm like, send me your resume. And then we started working together. And now she went to work at Google. She's now VP of sales. She's killing it. She literally met me at a party. It was all just like, I met this girl, Kathleen, at a concert in Golden Gate Park, which led me to figure out what copywriting was. If I stayed in my apartment, mm-hmm. I would not have a job. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not good to stay in. You need to actually go out more, do like a couple hours of, maybe 2 hours of emailing, and then go out to the gym. Mm-hmm. Look at people's laptop bags and be like, oh, where do you work? I'm looking for a job. Like, be open about it. Not like, where do you work? Whoa. It's just be like, yo, I need a job. You think I'm being a dork right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay. All right. So let's wrap it up. You know what this podcast is all about, right? That hopefully someone who's listening, who's in your same situation, feels like less alone or feels like gets something from this that spurs them to go sit at a cafe and have a conversation that might lead to a job. Because, mm-hmm. When I was going through shit last year, I listened to podcasts like to reprogram my brain, and I'm like mentally better now. So this might help somebody. Mm-hmm. In 6 months, when you listen to this episode, when you have a job, you'll have had one. You'll get one in like a month. It's my forecast. Because you're going to take 2 weeks to chill, and then you'll get a job. What advice do you have to yourself and others that you think might be helpful through this kind of adversity of losing your job and having to find one? Like, what's your real biggest, I know you've said a couple things, but what's your final closing thought on how to navigate this?
You're going to need to network. I mean, you have to have a plan and a strategy to do this. Otherwise, it's going to take much longer to get employed.
Like a written plan? Like, what does that mean?
Not necessarily, but I mean, I think the first time I got laid off, I had a spreadsheet that
I remember
that I had all the people that I'd reached out to, what company they were for, what was the role, and I had a notes section, and I had a date the last time I'd contacted them, so I knew if it had been too long, I needed to follow up and that kind of stuff, and that way, I could kind of. Otherwise, it just becomes too big of a thing to hold.
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah, it's like, hey, there were some times where did I already email this company? I couldn't remember because I didn't have a record of it, right? So I had to kind of have some kind of, hey, I'm going to ping these companies today, and maybe you need to do a cover letter and say maybe it's just not, hey, apply, attach, resume, here's my LinkedIn profile link, and send. Sometimes I ain't going to do it. Maybe you need to do something more personal, or like I mentioned, if you pay for the LinkedIn premium, you need to reach out to the recruiter, and but actually they do respond to that stuff because that's how they make their money.
You are their product. You're their product. Yeah. You're their product.
Go and talk to headhunters. That's their job.
Yep. They will work while you're sleeping.
It's their job to place you. And if they don't get paid. So go on LinkedIn, put in title of headhunter or recruiting, and start linking to those people, just all of them. And
then they'll come after you.
And because they're like, okay, yeah, I can use this guy. They could use this person because they have quotas. They have to meet those. And they only do it by placing you. They don't get paid if they don't. So make other people work for you on your job search.
Yep. My thing that worked for me when I got the job in 3.5 months was going to coffee and having informational calls because of friends of friends. Because even if there isn't a job right then, you have a 15-minute chat. Well, people are busy, so maybe a Zoom call, or if you're most likely a Zoom call, right? Unless it's someone's friend who lives locally. But, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Just want to chat about your company and offer to buy them a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. And if they're friends of mine, they're going to want to have a cup of coffee with you. That's how we know I have good friends. I've had 10 people text me and be like, if he sees anything at XYZ company where they work, let me know. How are you? How's he feeling? That's how you know you have good friends checking in on you. Mm-hmm. I have 15 messages asking about you, and how are we doing? And just checking in and validating. I know it can cause this, and it's we've got some good peeps, so we're going to be just fine. But I think that's great advice. And my advice too is attitude wise, if you live, which you don't, but I remember if I had a couple days where I cried literally the following week because I was like, God, I feel like such a loser, But then you turn it into fuel and you realize you're a salesperson and you're closing a deal and you're the product. And so having a spreadsheet is you got to close one deal and you're the product and you're selling it. Mm-hmm. And then when you close it, your salary is the size of the deal. Mm-hmm. And when you get it, you're gonna be I just found that deal and I closed it. So we're all in sales.
You're going to get adversity, even if you get the interview, you're still going to have the adversity. When I first came to California, I was interviewing with Assurian, and I'm talking to the managing director. And within the first 30 seconds of being on the phone with him, he goes, Ryan, full disclosure, when I was looking for this role, if I hadn't had somebody put the resume in front of me, I wouldn't have stopped on yours. That's the first thing he said to me. And I'm like, okay.
So nice.
He ended up hiring me. So
what did you say in response?
I said, well, I can appreciate you saying that, but I mean, I'm going to make it. And if you don't think I'm the right fit, I'm going to make it somewhere else and you'll hear my name again.
Woo!
So, but he hired me. He invited me out. I did my presentation. I nailed it. And then they hired me.
He's, like you said, he wanted to see how you handled it.
Yeah. Even when I interviewed with Cisco, I ended up talking to the GM there and he goes, see, you didn't go to a technical school was the first thing he said. You're
like, thank you.
It's don't you have enough Stanford people there already?
Hey, they call Tennessee the Harvard of the South.
Yeah, they really don't do that.
You don't know anyone.
No. Harvard for police.
Well, I've got issues with Harvard right now, so that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, we don't want to get into politics. Well, thank you. Mm-hmm. The only reason I'm cutting this off is we got to go to a barbecue right now with our good friends, the Schumans, who have always been there for us through adversity.
Mm-hmm.
In my shit show, I call it the shit show summer 2023. When I was the shit show, they were a family that was right there for us.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be here for us. This is just part of like welcome to Silicon Valley. When you've gotten laid off in Silicon Valley, you're legit.
Yeah,
So,
and that's a good point because
everybody goes through it.
that happens a lot around here. And so don't feel like you have a stigma on you because
No.
you got laid off. It happens a lot.
And be honest. People go, cool, next question.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you got laid off. Like, yeah. I mean, almost
Welcome to the
everybody you're going
club.
to talk to has had a layoff story around here.
And it does build character because you have to dust yourself off. You can have a couple days where you're like, you know, like ugly cry in the shower, like Ace Ventura, where you're like, no, why? Do it. If I hear you sobbing in the shower, I'll give you that space. But then get up and remember Brayden on the video, on the reel, well, new job. Well, you got to find a new job. Learn from the best. My mom. Son of Bree. He was funny. All right, I digress. Edit this out. Okay. Thank you, Ryan.
You want to have sex?
Okay, that's getting edited. God damn it.
You said you
Now
were...
I want a real good closer. Okay, so thank you. And we got to go to the barbecue now. And when you watch this next time, you'll have a job. Or an OnlyFans. Either or. We'll figure it out.
It's not long, but it's thin.
Oh. Now I have to mark this has explicit content when I post it. Because we reference that.
It's like this. But it works.
This is not for kids. All right, we got to go.
All right, here, I'll show everybody.
No, goodbye.